My name is Ciaran Devane and I'm Chief Executive of Macmillan Cancer Support. Katie and I met at a work conference. I was working as a consultant and she worked for a pharmaceutical company. I was talking, she came up to me afterwards and we ended up going out for a drink at a pub called the Leather Bottle in Hampshire. So she was quite bubbly and confident and interested and was, as stereotyping hugely as many redheads, wasn't going to suffer fools and would pick you up on anything that you thought wasn't sensible and wasn't right. So she knew her own mind. We got married in September. We were both in our 30s and Katie was diagnosed in the January just after that, so 3 and a bit months after we got married, and the operation was a few weeks after that again. So after the diagnosis, once we were through that disorientation, it's fair to say we were angry because we were young, we had careers and jobs, we were affluent, world was our oyster, planning on having kids, and because of the pelvic radiotherapy, of course, that meant Katie couldn't have kids, and all that disappointment was there, and took a while to come to terms with that. It was probably 18 months or so before we would both say actually we were at ease with the situation. Katie was ill for 5 years in all before she died, and for the last 3 we knew it was terminal and Katie was going to die of her cancer. So it was important, I think, that we decided to live life and have the cancer fit in with it rather than living life around the cancer, and I think that was a big decision for us. We would, for example, we'd go off and stay in a nice hotel, which normally we would never dream of spending the money on, or do a trip to France, and we went back to the west of Ireland a lot, which was a place we both really liked and that we'd been to frequently, and make the most of the time and just enjoy the day, whatever the day brought. Watching the birds of the bird feeder in the garden while the rest of the world was slaving away at work. It's hard to say what turned around our feelings. I think it was time. I think it was accepting this was only going to go one way and not trying to fight it, and really making a decision to say, well, actually we are going to do the best we can with this. Katie had difficulty walking, for example, went from being able to walk up the stairs to walking up the stairs holding a banister, to holding the banister but also another one that the nurse had put in, to having to go up backwards, to having to be carried up. I remember when the district nurse at one point suggested putting in this extra banister on the stairs and saying, well, what's that needed for? But by the time it was installed, it was a godsend, and it was about helping Katie get up the stairs independently on using the 2 banisters. And then there was a hospital bed which had an air mattress to prevent bed sores. So everything you would imagine in and around a hospital bed was moved into the bedroom initially, and then to the living room. My role, I guess, as a carer was, sometimes it was helping Katie walking, dressing, getting into the wheelchair. Obviously you end up doing all the driving and all the the household chores as well. So you have a full-time job, and then it gets into the nursing side. It's the the bandages, sorting out the catheter and so on. So you end up in many roles as a carer, all of which you have to try and do as best you can. It's a huge learning curve. I'm an engineer fundamentally. What do I know about nursing and care and medicine? You do end up having to learn a lot. You're having this thrown upon you. You didn't ask for it, and you try and learn, whether it's getting the advice from people or from the district nurse, or hoping you're doing your best. As Katie got more ill, the district nurse was coming 2-3 times a day, the GP was around regularly, the hospice doctor and the hospice nurse came fairly frequently, and We got quite a bit of support from Macmillan. There is a Macmillan Centre at the hospital in Guildford, the Beacon, and we were fortunate in that way. The district nurse was, in particular, and everybody around her, was very good at taking one small worry away, even before you knew you were just about to have that worry, and I think that was hugely valuable. Macmillan was very helpful with Katie's mother, to Katie's mother, who unsurprisingly was very distressed by the fact that her daughter was dying. I also knew when it was in the last few days, and in some ways that is the most difficult, of course. You'd expect it to be, but Katie was hanging on, and it got to the stage when one of the nurses said, "Ciaran, you have to give her permission to go," which was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I was with Katie when she died, which was early in the morning, and the support continued, frankly. I think the medical director of the hospice was around. Things obviously were very different after Katie died. While Katie was ill, as a carer, you're the person who tries to be steady, holding things together, while around you all these crises of everything are happening. For me, at least, it was afterwards that I, collapsed in the heap in the corner, having been, holding it all together, doing the project management, trying to be the steady person with all this stuff going on around. That was the time I needed to hold myself together, and the support from family and friends. I mean, it is different for everyone. In my case, it was taking a lot of time. Other people describe it as a bit like post-traumatic stress. But what's in common with all of that is after a bereavement, the carer needs support as well. I think having a personal experience of cancer has been very helpful to me in my role in Macmillan, because I hope it means that I will never forget what we're about. What I mustn't do is imagine that the one experience we had is the experience of everyone, and I hope I don't make that mistake. I think something as important as Katie, marriage, etc., and of course Katie's death doesn't go away. It's not far beneath the surface. It's never far beneath the surface, of course, and nor should it be, because otherwise it wouldn't have been as valuable and real as it was. But life does move on, has moved on, and people do bounce back.
For information, help, or if you just want to chat, call the Macmillan support line on 0808 808 0000 or visit macmillan.org.uk.